Hello, my name is Dumisa Dumisa.
Hello, my name is Nirvana Nokwe-Mseleku.
My name is Nomsa Fakude. When looking at like specific celebrities, cancel culture is, I think, people are definitely held to different standards, but I also think that has a lot to do with how they've reacted to things in the past and how they've acted about the situation. I think for the most part, it kind of seems fair, but there are some people where it's like, okay, like let them breathe for a second and like, have their say.
There's a few complex things that I want to address within my answer for this question. It mainly has to do with the double standards that are implemented within cancel culture that comes as a huge flaw within the liberation of our society as a whole and in the whole journey of becoming a progressive society. So when we get to have a look at the initial hegemonic structure of society that people have of, the cis-het white men being at the top and, the disabled black queer women that are at the bottom, there's already such an unbalanced scale of what kind of chances people have in order to succeed. Now, on top of that, people expect that kind of adversity to make you perfect in your way of thinking. So, for example, if you are a black queer woman, but you have certain flaws in the way that you think, people will just think that you've chosen that on purpose. People will think that, like, how dumb are you as a black queer woman to still have this flawed way of thinking? Whereas if a cis-het white man has to say the same thing or has a flawed way of thinking, we're kind of like, we get it, he doesn't have to live in our shoes. And it's like, fuck that, bro. Like, there's so much information that's available for us out there. Like, we can't have different levels of expectations for different people.
I'm gonna have to skip this question because I honestly don't know how to answer. Yeah, I don't know how to answer, but one thing I will say, I think, is that, cancel culture needs to be thoroughly thought out. It's a system of consequence. I feel like that consequence needs to then be met with rehabilitation, making amends, and redemption. I don't think there can be redemption without rehabilitation. I also think that there can't be any rehabilitation without accountability and making amends and truly saying sorry. And we still haven't figured out how to do that. So I think we need to think about that.
People like Dave Chappelle and Kevin Hart, who have both made statements and remarks that were like homophobic and transphobic, aren't going to get cancelled as effectively. Why? Because the main basis of their fan base are straight homophobic men. You know what I mean? So people like Kevin Hart and Dave Chappelle aren't going to get successfully cancelled by their fans because their fans don't care. In fact, their fans actually agree with them. So they won't care that, like, a few queer people, think that Kevin Hart and Dave Chappelle are, they're not progressive in their thinking, so they should get cancelled. They're gonna be like, they're still funny.
An interesting example that I will speak about actually is on YouTube. There's a YouTuber, her name is Jenna Marbles. She was one of the biggest YouTubers from the time when I was a kid to now. Like, she's still raking in millions and millions of views, and she has so much of a hold in the YouTube community. Like, all other YouTubers know who she is and they speak of her, and a lot of them emulate what she does, right? But with her, it was an interesting situation where she cancelled herself. And I think that this is where cancel culture starts to becoming a bit meta. So she released a video because she'd done, like, obviously problematic racist things, a lot of sexist content on her, sexist, misogynistic content back in her past. And it's things that she's grown from, because if you see her videos in the past couple of years, there is literally not a problematic thing to find. At least, I mean, I haven't combed through everything, but from what I can tell, she's someone who's completely changed and grown and left that part of her life. She privated a lot of those videos. But what happened was, when the Black Lives Movement started flaring up now, and a lot of people were speaking up about the things that they found offensive, she cancelled herself in a video where she spoke about, like, I did this, that, and the other. Here's the evidence of the stuff I did, and I'm deeply regretful of it. I'm leaving YouTube. So that's an interesting instance of, like, how cancel culture has permeated so far that people are even cancelling themselves. And it's important, because it's like, you see someone taking accountability and then taking the time away to go and reflect on the things they've done, right? And seeing how they can be a better person and a better creator and all that jazz. But it also means that a lot of people start looking at cancel culture as the demon in this, because a lot of the comments surrounding that incident were people saying, yeah, look at cancel culture, now she's gone off, our unproblematic queen, she has to leave the YouTube sphere. But it's also like, she did that herself. People shouldn't be blaming cancel culture for that, even though it is like a birth child of it in a way. But that was the most interesting instance of it for me.
Azealia Banks and Monique will easily get written off as crazy women, crazy black angry women, for not even being half as loud as Kevin Hart or Dave Chappelle. And it's just because of those high expectations that we have of black women over, black men, for example. Cancel culture negatively affects people who have a much harder time rising to success than people who would have had a whole lot more privileges.
Media doesn't take a stand. Media's on the fence. Media does things to gain the clicks. If it's beneficial for them to report certain things, they will. If it's not, they won't. Most times is what I'm trying to say. Cristiano Ronaldo is a rapist, and he's still...
Do you really think that Cristiano Ronaldo will get cancelled by his fans for being harmful towards women when he's such, a trailblazer on the soccer field?
Media still gives these people spaces. I think it's important for there to be some form of consequence with visibility, especially with crimes like that. When I found out on Twitter that he is a rapist, that just... it traumatized me, and it's going to, there's someone out there looking at their rapist thrive and prosper, and that's another form of violence that we don't speak about enough. I don't think, people who commit these crimes should be afforded visibility or audibility, even though the crime wasn't experienced directly from that person, but so many people can resonate with what happened to the victim or victims that it becomes a re-traumatization, and it just emboldens more people like him to do that. And so we really need to figure out what the consequences are. And at the same time, there needs to be some form of rehabilitation and redemption culture, because also media allows, media emboldens people to perpetuate rape culture through content. And that should be illegal. Rape culture should be illegal. Not this freedom of speech bullshit. No, it should be illegal. And so we need to talk about that.
In those cases where it's celebrities like that, like R. Kelly, where the case is very black and white, you can see the thing. Generally, cancel culture functions very straightforwardly of, okay, you're cancelled, you're out of the picture, sorry, bye. I'm not doing it, thank you very much. I think also in terms of the types of things that people are being cancelled for, it's weird to say that there should be levels of how deeply they're cancelled. Almost like, some people will get a life sentence of cancelling, and some people, they were just kind of ignorant, they should get, this, that, and the other. Because again, it's who are we to decide how bad their crime is? Are we the judges and jurors of the celebrity world, or like, yeah. And also then again, it's like someone has to decide what's worse than another thing, right? Like, as much as I personally would say, okay, rape and sexual assault are so much worse than like racism and blatant sexism, where someone else might be like, but that affects me more, you know? So it's tough to decide how deeply things should be cancelled. And I think that's where things start to fall apart, and that people start trying to dictate how severely other people should be cancelled. And then you lose sight of why you're actually calling people out on their problematics.
The Daniel Caesar one was a bit funny though, because like he told us to cancel him.
So I'm gonna say it, and you can cancel me. I'm making music right now. I'll put it out. You guys don't have to listen to it. Cancel me. Make me broke. You guys made me rich the last time, and I appreciate you guys for that. Don't listen to my next shit if you think I'm shit.
He really hopped on a video and asked us to cancel him. And then we did. Like, that is like so hilarious. Like, I'll never forget that in history. Canceling the dead. Fuck them dead niggas. Okay? Fuck them dead niggas. Fuck them dead niggas. Fuck them dead niggas. Like, how? Yeah.
It's weird because like we're always taught to speak fondly of dead people, to never say anything bad about dead people.
I mean, we need to be careful how we use the word cancel, because a lot of people weren't, like, a lot of people's truths were outed. It doesn't necessarily mean that they were canceled. Now everyone knows certain actions of certain people in their past, and it's like, oh, you move like that.
The legacy you leave shouldn't change just because you're dead, right? Like, the things you did are the things you did. Of course, it's insensitive to keep harping on about things that dead people have done. But I think there's a certain awareness that we need to have about that. So it's almost like it's another like loophole to it, isn't that? I'm gonna die one day, and I'm gonna leave all of this behind me.
I've never in my life been a believer that people should be absolved of their sins and of their crimes when they die. Like, how does that make sense? Like, how, Sway? Like, how do you expect to live your life like just like raping children and then be like, okay, I'm gonna die, and then we all have to like forgive you and forget that all of that happened?
Cancel culture is real, but also can be very not real because of politics. So we can know someone's truth about the violences that they've done onto people, but that doesn't, just because now we know, doesn't mean that they're canceled. So the terms of canceling the consequence needs to be clear. And that's the problem right now, is that it's not clear what the consequence is. Because the consequence seems to be people knowing and then back to business. And that's not cancel culture. So that's why I said that it needs to evolve, because it's an amazing power. I think it shakes people the right way, and it makes people wary of how they move and what they do the right way.
I will speak ill of the dead. I will speak ill of the dead all day, because that kind of shit deserves to haunt your legacy. If you're gonna live your life and you're gonna do things that affect other people, it deserves to follow you to your grave. It deserves to last long after you're dead. Like, that's why you need to be careful about the things that you do on earth. Think before you do things. Like, you can't think like, I'm just gonna do whatever I want and then die, and then people are gonna forget or continue to celebrate me for all the great that I've done. Like, no, we need to remember you for all the great that you've done and all the shit that you've been doing on the low. Like, no ways.
But I think it sets a good example for people that are still living, when we're aware of like, okay, MJ, as much as he's our hero or we all appreciate his music, we still need to understand that there were things about him that did not make him this god that we've painted him out to be, right? And Yeah, I think it's more important for the people that are still living, for people that are following in their footsteps, to be aware that your dying doesn't necessarily make you immune from the shit that you did when you were alive.
I still have to watch like Finding Neverland because I'm still scared to see it. It's like, it's so scary, all that kind of stuff. Like, you can't just die. You can't, no ways. You can't just die and think like, okay, fine, sorry, you know? No. Yeah, off the top of my head, Monique. The craziest part about that one is the fact that we didn't even call it canceling. It was just a matter of like a slow progression of people writing her off as being angry for clout. So that was like really strange, and I think we need to go back and think about that whole scenario with Monique and really like reassess like how we approached that situation.
I can't think of anyone that's been cancelled that I don't agree with. I can't think of anyone.
In terms of people that were cancelled that I don't agree with, thing is I can't think of any at the top of my head, because as much as I'm privy to and aware of celebrity culture in the world, I'm also very like, I live under a rock a bit, so I only hear about people being cancelled a lot later, you know, at later stages.
I also wish I could say Jussie Smollett, but that's just like my bias talking. Like, it's undeniable because what he did was a bit insane. That was like really wild. Another one is obviously Zenande Mfenyana. Like, it's crazy to me. Zenande Mfenyana is Goodness from The Queen, by the way. It's crazy for me to think that people really try to start a hashtag saying Zenande Mfenyana is cancelled. And it's like, when I actually clicked on that trend, I saw why they cancelled her. So apparently she started having a little attitude. Why? Because people went online and told her that she looks ugly and she looks fat during her pregnancy. And then someone apparently DM'd her and said that, my family also tells me, like, they always make fun of me and they call me ugly. Like, when I'm pregnant, I just take it in stride and we just have to know that it's all fun and stuff like that. And it's like, you're really comparing yourself to someone who is a public figure and who is in the public eye and who gets like thousands of comments on a daily about her physical appearance. And then suddenly when she says something back to those people, everyone is just like, that doesn't make sense. Guys, please think. Like, we have to be realistic.
I guess for me it would be that, like, that sort of Jenna Marbles situation, right? In that she took accountability for the things she said and did. And then, I guess she cancelled herself. But I thought it was a bit, not drastic, but it's a thing of like, when you can clearly see someone's growth and development, right? Because it's on the internet there for you to see. You can literally go through with a fine-tooth comb and see how much better this person has become and how much more conscious they have become of the decisions they're making online. It becomes very difficult for me to accept that kind of cancelling, right? Some of them it's too fresh and too soon to have seen that growth and that change. I'm not saying that there's a certain amount of time, like 10 years, and only then can we consider their case and cancel them. I'm saying that it does help though, when you've seen the 10 years of like how someone's grown and changed, and now you can fully say like, okay, I can agree that this person who was cancelled at that time no longer needs to be cancelled now. But I can't think of any more like specific situations at the minute.
The Doja Cat one was a little bit weird. I just feel like everyone was up to their shoulders deep in her business for no reason. Oh my God. And I think that one was just like, people were looking for reasons to cancel her. I just think that like society maybe is just getting tired of supporting Black women. Like, everyone's just like, whew, another Black woman is successful. Like, when is this gonna end? Like, really nitpicking and like finding small things about black women, especially in hip hop. It's getting weird. And the Doja Cat one was the weirdest one out of all of them for me.
I've already mentioned that it's weird that we're like the judges and juries when it comes to cancel culture, right? Like it's not like we all think the same. So someone might have a different opinion on how long someone should be cancelled, whereas someone else might be like, okay, if they did the crime, let them do their time. 3 months is all it takes. But I think definitely the longer amount of time that you can see that someone's consistently been trying to change, the easier it is to stop cancelling them.
So, how long is someone meant to stay cancelled? Ideally for life. But I mean, I'm guessing that has to do with every individual or everyone who is a fan and you've decided to cancel a celebrity. That all, I think it's got to do with you. Like, for example, with me, as an openly gay person who hates homophobia, like with my whole life, like I can't stand homophobia. It's obviously going to be a thing where I can't find it in myself to ever support Kevin Hart again after all of that, because there's just certain things that I can never forgive. There's also that side of me that's like, if other people want to support Kevin Hart, then who am I to police them? Like, I don't own the internet. But as for me, and in my heart, he's 100% cancelled.
I don't think you can expect someone who did a thing to know how to undo a thing, and make sure that the undoing of that thing is, brings about healing and brings about safety. Because our systems don't facilitate space for rehabilitation. There are no examples of what consequence is and how to redeem yourself and what rehabilitation looks like. There are no active examples of that. And that's why I think cancel culture needs to evolve into a well thought out system of acknowledging harm once, then the consequence of that harm or those actions, and then rehabilitation, which goes hand in hand with accountability and acknowledging that, hey, you did this harm. After rehabilitation, then redemption. And in that redemption, it needs to be proactive. Like, it needs to not just be a face value thing. I think the rehabilitation needs to be a transformation of that person from the inside out, where they're doing things not to be seen as a particular kind of way, but because they deeply believe in this transformation and how valuable it is to be a person that is safe to be around.
I'm also just like 100% against gender-based violence or violence in general, because like, who do you think you are? Like, to lay a finger on someone, like on some, I'm trying to put this person in check. Like, really, like, who do you think you are? So it's just that thing. And also, it doesn't really affect me that much because I've never really been a huge, like, diehard fan of Chris Brown. So it was kind of easy for me to cancel him. And for me, it was just like, once I canceled both those people, I just put them out of my mind. Like, they just like don't appear in my mind anymore. It's not even a thing where when I see them, I'm like angry. It's like when I see their faces, I don't recognize their importance and I move on.
It's so weird that people should be allowed to get over their past with things like this. Like, if you think about our own traumas, where no one's telling us that we should remember those bad things that happened to us for the rest of our lives. And I think it's the same with having done bad things almost, is that that traumatizes you too, especially if you learn to take accountability for it. You're traumatized by the very bad things that you've done. So I think it's definitely irrational and unfair to say that there isn't a time for it. Like, there's no way at all can anyone ever be uncancelled. But sometimes a crime is just unforgivable. Like, personally, I think even after 100 years, for example, I would still look at R. Kelly and be like, I still see the bad things that you've done because they were just so harrowing.
I don't know how long someone should be cancelled. Oh, they like apologized. Okay, like someone really goes on a whole, like creates a whole show telling a homophobic joke, and then when people try to cancel them, they're like, I'm so sorry, like on a video, and then we all just supposed to be like, okay, like that's cool, that's fine, like we all support you now, we love you. Like, I don't know, doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, it's just hard for people to redeem themselves in my eyes after I've cancelled them. And who knows, maybe that's more of a me problem. But at the same time, I also don't have a problem forgiving someone for their crimes and then still just like not finding it, or even actually committing myself to still not consuming their content after that. So I can forgive someone. I can be like, okay, I can see that Kevin Hart really didn't mean to be homophobic, even though he put it in a whole show. So he's apologized now. And I should just like, continue to see him as a good person, but why should I continue to watch his shows ever again?
I was about to say we need to learn how to place people in society, those people who've now have rehabilitated themselves and redeemed themselves, But I guess that's not our place, because for so long, victims of harm, of violence, heck, I am still trying to figure out what my position is in society. And I'm the one who's been, harmed. And so many other women have been harmed. And so many other men have been harmed too. Or non-binary people, just like not knowing where to place themselves because of the harm that's been imposed on them. And yeah, but rehabilitation needs to be a thing, because what you'll find is that a lot of the people whom are violent are psychopaths and are narcissists, and that requires a skill. Like, there's a skill to handle that, and not society as a whole is not equipped with that skill. Our society emboldens psychopathy and narcissism. Yeah, we need to have a department of mental health. That's what needs to happen. That's a great idea. And that department needs to be run by people who are... It can't be run by one person. Even the structure of that department cannot be conventional. It can't. It can't.
I guess it also has a lot to do with how defensive maybe the celebrity was. If they were trying to hide, trying to paint themselves in a better image than they were, instead of just saying, okay, yes, this is the messed up stuff I've done, and here are the tangible steps I'm doing to fix myself and to help the other people that I've wronged. But yeah, in terms of a time frame, I don't know. Like, I think you just have to go with your gut. Go with God and see what feels right to you.
And then I would like to conclude by saying that at the end of the day, as much as you are part of a society, as much as we're all part of a society, we are our own people, and we need to protect and provide safety as much as we can. I think that each of us that are fighting against these violences needs to heal. I think that people whom have harmed others, whether through conditioning or just because they felt like they could, need to go through the work too.
Truly and honestly, that's how I think everyone should approach cancel culture, as an individual journey and not as like a mob mentality, or we're all canceling this person, let's all do it together, go! That doesn't make sense to me anymore. There still is going to be power in numbers even if it's not everyone in the whole entire world. You don't know why everyone liked that person in the first place. You don't know what kind of attachments a person had to that person's content. So to just expect everyone to cancel someone as easily is a bit unrealistic and it's inconsiderate. Let everyone have their own control as to how they implement cancel culture.
But also being aware that what might be right for you is not right for someone else. Someone else might need longer to deal with what someone like a celebrity has done. And it seems weird that we're so affected by celebrities, but like I said, we're so close to them. So it makes sense. I think that if anything, cancel culture should serve more as a lesson to people that are influenced by celebrities or people that like a certain celebrity, right? It serves more as a lesson to them than it does to the actual celebrity, because with the celebrity or the public figure who's done something wrong, they have to do that work internally to change. Whereas someone who's looking from the outside in, this is a nice like packaged lesson of like, okay, here's how to be a better person. Don't do what so-and-so did. I don't know, I think it's an important step towards a better world, because a lot of the world's problems are caused by people and the things that we don't realize are wrong. But yeah, for the most part, cancel culture is positive. It has a positive impact on our world and on our digital landscape. It makes people feel like they can come out about the problematic things they've experienced, that they can speak about the traumas that they faced, and that something, at least something, will be done about it. I think it gives people hope that when they speak up about having been wronged, it won't just be them speaking into the void and like that's it. Yeah. So I guess, yeah, those are my final thoughts on cancel culture.
So yeah.
Signing out.
Justified tombe et battant. Le stress est accru par l'on vécu. Une feuille tombante, anxiété latente. Pas envie de recommencer ce qu'on foirait les parents. C'est bon, je l'ai vu cru, ça fait aïe.